My room, absolutely like no wall spots on the wall. It was just covered in Beatles stuff. And so I got really, 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 really obsessed.
These youngsters from Liverpool, England.
Hello, I'm Jack, and you're listening to the Here, There, and Everywhere podcast, an interview show about the Beatles' influence in the past, present, and future across the universe and across generations. Today I want to welcome Grace Spelman onto the podcast. Grace is a comedian, writer, and a podcast host for the Ringer's music show on Spotify. Hey Grace, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
How are you doing?
I'm great. Just, another day, another dollar, I guess. I don't know. I'm good. Yeah, I love the name of your show. My mom actually walked down the aisle to that song at her wedding. So,
no way, that's awesome. So Grace, for those who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm Grace Spelman. I am a writer. I worked at the website BuzzFeed for a little bit. Well, actually for a few years. I have done some TV work here and there. And currently I am a podcast host on the Ringer Network's music podcast, very cleverly called just The Ringer Music Show, where I talk with my co-host, Charles, about music stuff and music industry stuff, music news, but also weird stuff like, karaoke etiquette and stuff like that. So a little bit of everything, just everything that has to do with online stuff, internet culture stuff.
And I see you're also a Spotify playlist guru.
Yes. Yeah, I am. And honestly, I think maybe once I talk about the Beatles a little bit, it might make sense. I kind of do these very, not so much mood playlists, but more like cool horns playlist or singer goes up the octave playlist, just like little things I notice in songs and sort of just catalog them. And I just add to them bit by bit. It's probably not fun to listen to start to finish, but it's nice to organize, kind of like a little compulsive thing I do.
So you're really into music. Can you tell us, how did this start?
Well, both my parents are musicians. I think that had a big thing to do with it, and encouraged, obviously played music in the house all the time, but then also, encouraged my sister and I, made us take piano lessons at a very young age and would not let us quit, which I'm now, very grateful for. But yeah, mostly just a really, really musical household with musicians and people who got excited about music and cared about music and performed it and played it. So that's kind of how I soaked all of that up.
And were you always interested in music, or was it more like, my parents are making me do this, I want to get away from this?
I think if I had been really good at school, had gotten good grades or sports, I would have been had some, but no, I mean, I was really good. I was good at it and I liked it a lot, and there was nothing else I really wanted to do. And I just genuinely enjoyed it, and so no, but it does make sense that I could do a rebellious thing, but no, I loved doing
Cool.
it. Yeah.
How did you get the inspiration to get on the career path you're on right now?
Geez, honestly, well, I mean, my career track kind of is a little bit of an odd story in that I did I basically almost failed out of high school just because I don't know, I had crazy ADD and had a hard time doing my homework. But a lot of the reason I never did my homework is because I was always online and blogging in the early days of blogging and spending way too much time on the internet, which back then was a problem. And then, I was dropping and failing out of community college, living in my parents' basement, working at Build-A-Bear at the mall. And I got an email from someone at BuzzFeed that was hey, we like this internet stuff you're doing. Do you want to come and interview? And so I ended up working at BuzzFeed as a writer for 5 years. And it was because I just, the track was just that it's what I did instead of my homework, I think. But I don't know. But there's also just something so fun about the internet and expressing yourself. And that's kind of how it started for me. And that's kind of where it is still right now.
Well, I think that's awesome. I mean, if you can turn your hobby into a career, I think that's everyone's dream. So congrats on doing that and succeeding in it too.
Thank you. It's, yeah, I think at the age of 17, I would not have expected it. So it's cool. I'm proud of me a little bit.
When did you first hear the Beatles?
I mean, I, it's one of those things where it's like, I think the way that I can liken it is like, I mean, I don't know. It's probably it's my dad's favorite band. And by favorite band, I mean, not like, your favorite sports team is the Red Sox and you get excited every time you watch them. Like, he was in a band himself, he played so much of the Beatles stuff, played piano, played guitar. Like, anytime he sat at the piano, he would do like the little Lady Madonna thing, the riff on there. And so it kind of feels like, how when like the first animal you ever know is like a dog. You never, like, as a kid, like when you're growing up, you're never like, oh, a dog is an animal. The way that like later in life, you're like, oh, a sloth. Wow, that thing's crazy. And you're telling me that's an animal. It's like, it's not like, a dog is an animal. Like, you know what a dog is before you learn what an animal is. And so for me, the Beatles kind of felt just like, I'm sure they were the first like artist in my mind I ever heard, just because it really was like, I mean, it was huge in our house with both my parents. So I can't paint the picture because I was very little, but I do have like memories of being young and very specific memories of listening to them as a kid.
And were you always like encapsulated by them, or was there a time where that was just kind of, when you see a dog for the first time, you're like, oh yeah, that's a dog. But when do you first become encapsulated and you're like, wow, that's something else?
Well, something that I think is a huge part of this for me, and also not just about the Beatles, but also the way I listen to music, is there's this book. Actually, you know what? It's right here. I see it. I have it myself. Hold on.
Cool.
I just got a new version of it, but I don't know it's this book. Have you seen this giant ass thing? The complete scores. Have you seen this? So
no, I haven't seen that.
So this is a book my dad had when I was growing up. It's now fallen apart. I don't know where it is, but I used the cover off of it. But it's basically a giant book that has every Beatles song in it, the sheet music, but not just like like the guitar part and the main melody line, but it has like the full score of every song. So it's got like the sheet music for the percussion, like in Benefit of Mr. Kite, it's got like the accordion line written out. Like every sound that is possibly being made on a Beatles song has been transcribed and put into sheet music form. And so and obviously because my parents made me take piano lessons and stuff as a kid, I could read sheet music. And so very young, I learned that like, holy crap, like songs, you can like notice little parts in songs and like follow along with certain things. And there's more to, I saw the Beatles were just four guys because I could see the album cover, but then this song had like, a sitar. And I'm like, well, who's playing that? And it kind of opened up my idea of like, this idea of there being more to like music and more to production and a way to listen to things and also try to listen to things and pick up on things. And so that was like, I think I first read that book when I was like 13 years old. And if anyone wants to Google it, it's called The Beatles Complete Scores. It's really cool. It's really fun. It's got like all the vocal harmonies written out. It's like a gajillion pages. But so I think as a kid, I read that, and then years went by. I would say like middle school and up to like my sophomore year of high school. And then I was a junior in high school and I got a BlackBerry. And that was my first smartphone ever. And it's when I discovered I was like addicted to Wikipedia. And I think some of the first things I ever Wikipedia'd were Beatles songs, because like, if you don't know, there is a Wikipedia page for every single Beatles song that ever exists. And so I think like as a junior in high school, I mean, I had loved them, but all I knew was their music and all I knew was listening and hearing it. And then I got to like know a little bit more about it on Wikipedia, and I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. And then I got into like, I got like obsessed. It was like obsessed, like thinking about it all day and night, like multiple Tumblr blogs about it. My room, absolutely like no wall spots on the wall. It was just covered in Beatles stuff, like watching the anthology 9-hour DVD a bunch. And so I got really, 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 really obsessed. And I had also and then also at that point I had learned more about music theory. So, I knew chord progressions down, relative minor, all these types of things that sort of opens up another realm of listening. So it was getting to hear Beatles with even fresher ears. And so from the ages of 16 to 20, I was down bad for all the Beatles. And so, and then I think it kind of faded, and then it always kind of stayed there. And then remember, they weren't on Spotify for a really long time until 2016, I think, very early 2016. And that kind of limited me. And then honestly, I'm kind of like everyone else right now, where the Get Back documentary has sort of maybe get back into it again. I'm not as crazy obsessed as I once was. I probably could have rattled off 3 hours worth of facts back then. But yeah, so that's kind of how my journey. Was that even the question that you asked? Does that answer what you asked?
Yes, it did. I actually have a bunch of other questions now. So you were about 16 years old when you were obsessed. So a junior high?
Yeah, I was sophomore, late sophomore to 2 years after I'd gotten out of high school. First thing I did when I graduated high school that September after that summer was get my first tattoo, which was a Beatles tattoo. So in the it's Hard Day's Night. When they do that, in the Hard Day's Night movie, they do that jumping sequence where they jump in the air. It's a silhouette. It's on my rib cage, and it's just a silhouette, completely black, of the jumping thing.
So what year were you obsessed? What kind of stuff was going on at the time? You had a BlackBerry. What were your peers listening to while you were obsessing?
I mean, my peers were, I hung out with a lot. I mean, I was really into music. I was really into being a kid who was into music, into, professional youth choirs and stuff like that, but doing more I liked doing more classical singing, not a Glee Club kind of thing. Our school did more choral works and major works and stuff like that. But in that era, it's for me, 2008, I mean, MGMT, Animal Collective's Merriweather Post Pavilion had just come out. MIA's had just come out. I was really digging that. I was really into I also had a boyfriend who was really into cool bands. And so I was I'm into cool bands too, but they actually ended up being really good. And he was also really into the Beatles. But I think a lot of it had to do, for painting the picture, was I wasn't very good. I mean, when I say I was not good at school, it was I was not, I was failing out of almost every class except for scraping by in English and doing well in chorus and music theory. And so I was kind of all right, well, this is the one thing I'm good at that doesn't get me in trouble, and I like it. And so I tried to listen to a lot of music, but let's see, hold on. This is 2009 music.
Okay, so Sean Kingston was big.
I have a very strong memory of singing Sean Kingston around the piano with my friends in choir. Oh, yeah, Empire State of Mind. Oh, Justin Bieber was kind of just being a thing. Lady Gaga was dipping her toe into music.
Taylor Swift was getting big around then too.
Taylor Swift. Yeah, absolutely. God, I mean, I don't know. I mean, people love being oh, that was music back then. Music was so much better back then. But I don't know. I don't know if I believe that shit. But yeah, so some good stuff. Oh, also Fleet Foxes was huge for me. Huge. Their album had come out. Their first one had come out in 2008, I think. They're self-titled. So that was huge for me. And they kind of they do a lot of vocal harmony stuff. And so I was really into them also.
They're good. They're another band that's very influenced by the Beatles too.
Oh, for sure.
So did you ever feel outcasted liking the Beatles while all of your peers are listening to that music?
I mean, I didn't feel like that because I was also listening to rap songs. I mean, I do love rap. I mean, 2008 was also 808s and Heartbreaks, and the 2010 was my Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Those were huge albums for me, super influential. But there definitely was, I did feel like an outcast in that I felt this sort of excitement about the Beatles that felt holy shit, how are you guys not hearing the same? This is incredible what we're hearing. Why isn't everyone else sort of freaking out about this? And And I do have specific memories because like I said, I was on Tumblr a little bit, and I had a blog. I think probably like people will still DM me and be like, I remember your blog, which was titled, my blog title name was Bathroom Window, based on the Paul McCartney song, She Came In Through the Bathroom Window. But I would like really, the way that I do now still, and the way that this book that I mentioned before taught me, I would be like, listen, like, it's so cool how on this song the bass does this, or like, I was really into Paul McCartney, who really favors like octave leaps in both his guitar playing and in his bass playing. Like, if once you notice he loves to like jump up an octave or go down an octave, you can like really pay attention to it and enjoy that. And I do remember like friends who did know about my Tumblr, a lot of them didn't, being like, wow, you like really helped me appreciate it, because I did feel like, holy crap, like this is not just a thing that our parents play around us. This is not just Eleanor Rigby. There's other stuff too, and it's awesome. And also these guys were hilarious, and their movies were funny, and they were weird and like kind of really complicated people. So I think I did feel like an outcast in the sense of, but like feeling alone in this like fascination. But my instinct was to want to share and talk about it with everyone for 500 hours straight, so that they could feel the way that I felt about them.
Did the Beatles influence your life in any way other than just music taste?
No, they did influence my life in that, I guess in that like, I was like, wow, marijuana could lead me to make a cool thing one day. Like, or whatever. And I think, and then when I like did smoke pot in like junior year, well, actually I didn't sophomore year, but then I like got scared and stopped. But junior year, then I was kind of like, okay, this is cool. Like, but I didn't do psychedelics or anything. So it influenced that, I guess. They influenced, honestly, not my sense of humor, because like I think my sense of humor is something I got through like family and like this, however you normally acquire your sense of humor. But honestly, there's like, I also was like obsessed with the bootlegs. I loved the bootlegs. I had like so many, but I loved the Think for Yourself like studio chat off of Rubber Soul.
What's wrong?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I feel so stupid.
Look, Terence,
What
if
is
you
it?
wanted to resign from the amateur dramatics, do.
It's not that. I put a lot of money and thought into the whole thing.
Yeah, but let's face it, you're crap. Aren't you?
Well, all right.
I mean, you're only doing walk-ons.
Whose father was it got the hall in the first place, eh?
It's like very fun and very funny. And then there's one way Paul says the word sorry, and he says it in this like very certain way that I heard for the first time when I was like 16. And I think when I say sorry, or like I'll do a joke, I'll be like, sorry. And I say it exactly like the way that Paul did. I don't know, it's stuck in my head. So I guess that one way, but mostly the biggest way that they have influenced me outside of my taste is that book that I read that is sort of like changed the way I listen to music, in that like more thoughtfully and noticing things how things change and stuff like that. Yeah.
When you said you noticed how Paul said the word sorry, I do the exact same thing. Like there's this one outtake where either John or Paul goes, I'm sorry, God, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Paul forgot to say 13. And George, great.
God, I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry. I was just watching George and I thought, it must be all right.
Yeah, it's John. He's like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and now I always think of that whenever somebody says sorry. That's the first thing that comes in my mind. So my question is like, what do the Beatles possess that makes even what they say in outtakes so memorable to us?
I think if anyone else had heard it, they'd be like, whatever. But I think as like a Beatles like obsessive, you might hear it differently knowing who they are. Like I hear John say that, and we remember that. And then also like, I think I remember the Paul sorry thing, because Paul just like does so many funny voices, and that like when Paul says it that way, it doesn't really sound like Paul. It sounds like he's like doing a little voice, and I love that little voice. So
yeah.
I think the reason like people like you and I remember it is because we're like, oh, that's classic Paul,
Right. Speaking about you and I, we're both, we're around the same age, and we're part of this generation where records are not the only way to listen to the Beatles. And I mean, we have them on our phone. have studio chatter on YouTube, which might not have even been heard until, except with the exception for rare bootlegs until like 2009
Yeah,
or
that's
even later.
studio. Yeah, that's studio chatter. I got through like a weird download site in like 2008. Yeah.
So do you think that our generation, while we didn't grow up with the Beatles as they were releasing music, do you think that we have this kind of this different connection with them where, they're not our age, but we have them right here. We're in our pockets wherever we go.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. In the span of like 4 years, I probably saw every single photograph of the Beatles that ever existed, to the point where like, and this was like 2010. So like, if there was a photo of them, it probably was online already. But like, of course, they are, here is this new photo of the Beatles. But like, if you're a big Beatles fan and you see a photo that's been unreleased, like, immediately if that's a new photo of them. Do you know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But I got that knowledge. I like got that like photo, like that memory photo album of every single Beatles photo in the span of 4 years, where I'm sure someone like my dad, who's been, has been there from the beginning, kind of, who is not an online person, doesn't have the same amount of like Beatles info crammed into their head. I mean, like I said, I was up all night scrolling through Wikipedia. We just we could binge digest as much Beatles as they wanted to, because they'd been around for so long, there was a lot of information on them, and also they're just like a legacy band, so they're being written about by everybody. There was so much to consume that we can easily get that wasn't accessible back then.
Right. That's a really interesting term. You said legacy band. Why are some things like, Mickey Mouse is over 100 years old? There are some things that are just timeless. And the Beatles seem to be one of those things, like especially with Get Back airing and breaking the trail. I think the trailer broke YouTube's record view count for a documentary trailer. What makes the Beatles so current and so timeless and like you said, legacy?
I think honestly, I think one of the biggest factors, I'm going to say, is just like the power of they're good songs. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why Yesterday is, I don't know, I haven't checked in on this stat in maybe a few years, but it's the most covered song of all time. And I think that, like, if you write a song that's good enough, it will have staying power. So I think a huge part of their legacy is because of the power of a songwriting duo like Paul and John, but then also stuff like the culture at the time and the way they made parents nervous and the way they made kids feel like, what the fuck just happened to me? I just heard this crazy shit. Like, what the fuck? The way that it just like it affected, it's like they came into the world and threw a grenade down and everyone got hit. And it's I think that's, and once you do that, you're a legacy no matter what. I mean, bad stuff has legacies too. So like, if you're going to affect a bunch of people and change the world, then you are automatically a legacy. And they did that even outside of like a really good song, just by the way that they looked and the way that they talked and even the stuff that they wrote about. So I think it's just like, it happens to do, like, a huge part of it was just also the place and time, like what was going on in the world at the time. So it was sort of like this perfect puzzle piece, and I don't know. So yeah, so that's my theory.
Speaking of Get Back, have you seen the documentary?
So I watched the first two, and then I've been moving into a new apartment over like the last week, so I haven't watched the last one yet, which is honestly, and I'm going to. It's just, so the other thing is that like this audio, a lot of it had existed before on the AB sessions, I think, and the Let It Be sessions, those bootlegs. Have you heard those ones?
Oh yeah.
So I had heard like a lot of this already, but I hadn't seen it. But the third one, is it basically just the rooftop performance?
So like the last 45 minutes is the rooftop performance, and
Okay.
there are a couple of hours of just studio stuff before that.
Okay, yeah. I heard it gets like more fun. I am going to watch it, but I have watched the first two I just like, it's one of those things that it's so special to me that to like sort of half watch it feels sort of cruel to them, you know?
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Because you want to give them your full attention. I mean, this is a once in a lifetime thing where you get, a full work day worth of Beatles.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such like even if there was no sound, the act of like seeing it, like I'm sure when you first saw it, it felt because of the work that they've done to make it look so crisp and clear. It felt I just like was shaking my head being like what the fuck? Like it felt so weird to see them so young and so like in the quality that good. And that feels like sort of magic to me. And so to like play it on my small laptop while I go around and like unpack feels cruel. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, for me, just seeing John, like him moving around, him being animated, it's like I've only really seen pictures aside from the original film, which I could
Mm-hmm.
barely make out what was going on in that one anyway
Yeah.
because of the quality. And plus, I watched it on like Daily Motion. It was like a really bad bootleg of it,
Yep.
and but just seeing that was super special for me too. And I completely understand what you're saying. It's like you wanna give it your full attention when you watch it. It like demands it, kind of.
Yeah, and that's a really good point about John because when I think of this like era of Beatles, I like it does bum me out a little bit because like I do love them when they're like happy and having a good time and those days that they talk about when they would just like Paul and John would sit in a hotel room and it like just write these crazy songs that were wonderful. But this is definitely a time where I know everyone's tense, everyone hates Paul, and the tension between John and Paul. But there is something like to see John just like being like moving and not, I don't know, that time period I just associate him with being like kind of like a grump. I don't know why, because if anything I feel like George was probably grumpier than everyone. But then also like the tragedy of John's death and like how we don't get to see him be animated after this year. So yeah.
So has it changed the way you see the Beatles or any specific member, or even just the story of their breakup?
I mean, I don't know. I know that like, I mean, Yoko Ono's name was like basically turned into a verb to Yoko something. So I do know by like that, like the common person, not the common person, that sounds derogatory. I mean, just like the average, the passive Beatles fan will be like, yeah, Yoko broke up the Beatles. And I think a lot of people were sort of like, wait, no, she didn't. She's just chilling, reading a magazine with John's face on it, which is weird, but it's not going to break up the band. And so it didn't, I mean, I don't know, maybe something will happen in the third movie that will change my mind, but it didn't really make me be like, oh, I knew it was really tense back then. I think it made me be like, it really made me, I mean, everyone loves Ringo. Everyone kind of does the, oh, Ringo. But like, man, he was so sweet in that like, that is one thing that I did get from it was just like, man, Ringo was just like doing his best. And especially for the fact that like, he was like, Paul, like, I guess, during the White Album, Paul would like re-record his drums. And yet like a few years later, Ringo was like, oh, I love seeing my friend Paul. Like, it was just like, there's no ego there for him.
He's a sweetheart. Yeah.
He's a sweetheart. And so, that's not really about their breakup, but that is something that I kind of learned, I guess, from this.
No, and I think that's the magic of this documentary is that you do get that sense of behind the scenes personality that is not through the lens of media outlets like, The Sun or The Inquirer or these things that put out stories specifically to make money off of it. So they want to sell headlines. And I think maybe after a couple decades, that is how this narrative started.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice to see it from the source. So, I mean, like you said, Ringo he's great. He's a beam of sunshine, especially in that dark, cold Twickenham studio. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, seriously, it's so big and it's just like it's cavernous in there.
Yeah.
But I did love it. I think there's one moment from, I think I tweeted about it, but there's one moment from, so Paul's my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And this little clip that like perfectly encapsulated why he is my favorite was it was day 9. I don't remember if that was number 1 or number 2 for the series, but it was day 9 and Paul is sitting at the piano next to like some random kid who I think is like the crew at the studio, and Paul is just sitting there, messing around on the piano, and basically is like, the great thing about music is like every note is just here in front of you.
That's it, all who's ever been written is all there,
Which is true, and is why my parents actually made me play the piano, because it's tuned to the key of C, but then also like literally all notes you ever need you can see them and they're right here in front of you. And so they were like, "You're sorry, but you have to learn the piano. You can't learn the saxophone," which I kind of had pitched to them, but they're like, "No, you're not going to learn the saxophone. You can't just."
I played the saxophone.
So did my mom. So, and my mom studied piano in college, but she did play the saxophone when she was young. So I thought maybe I could swing it. But it's this little thing. He's like, "Hey, this is how you do it." And then he also talks about how the song he does end up playing for him is "Martha, My Dear," which is very inspired by, old-timey sort of ragtime Tin Pan Alley music, which I love. And also it's just like a little glimpse into what was important to Paul. He mentions his dad. His dad was a musician as well. I think he played the trumpet. And then all of a sudden Paul's like, yeah. So then you get a little chord goes like this, and then this happens. And then he just plays "Martha, My Dear" for this kid who's just like nodding. And then at the very end, Paul is like, yeah, so unless you stop, there's no stopping yourself. As if it were easy as pie to like write "Martha, My Dear," one of like, to me, one of the sweetest songs. But yeah, so that was just like, I was like, I don't know. I do love like the rockers, the 60s druggy stuff that comes out of like that, like, some of that, they're a part of their era, but I do love like the earnest grandpa music teacher vibe of Paul. I think that's what I will always swoon for, unfortunately.
Yeah. Is it the beard that gives him that vibe?
I think so, but then I don't know. And he's like beaming, like with his baby face playing for the Queen. I'm also like, oh my God, I love you. So I get it.
So seeing this documentary, have you found any new inspiration or any kind of creative endeavors?
I mean, I guess it's kind of like one thing that, I guess if you're a Beatles fan, is that Paul never settles for anything less than like absolute perfection, to the point where it like pissed some. I mean, obviously, like, you sacrifice a little bit when you are in a band. You have to make compromises. But he was really, not only was he like bossy when it came to music, but in the documentary, he's like, if we could just have a schedule, guys, like things would be great, And my personality is kind of just go like la-di-da, like I'm gonna play The Sims for 2 hours, and then maybe like my genius idea will come to me. So it's kind of weird. Like, I'm probably in work ethic wise not like Paul at all, even though like he is my favorite, and I think he's probably the greatest songwriter of all time. Maybe Stephen Sondheim, kind of tied. But so I guess it sort of made me like appreciate this work ethic, I guess. And that famous video that's now viral of him just like sitting down and churning out Get Back, which is obviously like a miracle, and like watching, a guy paralyzed stand up from his wheelchair. Like, you never see it. So I'm not expecting to like log off and play The Sims and then write Get Back, but like I'm hoping to maybe stop playing The Sims a little bit more because of this.
Or create a new sim and name it Paul.
Yeah, right. Just make the Beatles. I'm surprised I haven't even done that yet. So, right. Okay, great. Now I have to go do that.
So, Grace, what are you doing now in life? What's your focus?
Right now, I just moved to LA. I lived here for a little bit, and then the pandemic, I lived at home for the whole thing, which was great. It was fine. I love my mom. It was not bad. So now I'm back, and I'm podcasting right now, but hoping to do some TV stuff. I'd had like a few gigs doing some stuff for the Tonight Show and the spin-off Tonight Show called That's My Jam that just premiered. I did some like development work, very little stuff, but I'm hoping to do some comedy writing. I've got like an idea for, I'm doing like my classic, write a pilot to get, staffed on like a scripted comedy show. But then I also have some like ideas for some like children's music shows, some like educational children's music shows, because I did want to be, had I gotten good grades in high school and like gone to college and been good at college, because I didn't, I really wanted to be a music teacher. And I think that's, I want to try to like still do that in any way that I can without without a degree. So I really want to get to work on that. If any famous rich people want to fund are listening to this and want to give me some money so I can put on my little children's puppet show for music idea, please contact me, because I am just a podcast host. So yeah, so hoping to do that. But right now, just podcasting on the show that I love, talking about music. And I'm so glad to be here because we were going to do an episode on the Beatles Get Back, and I had all this stuff to say, and we never got to do it. So I'm very glad to be here, and I'm glad that I got to talk about it finally.
Well, the puppet show sounds great. What made you want to be what made you want to get involved with kids?
Well, I worked in childcare for like 10 years. I was a preschool teacher for 4 years. I was a nanny here and there. I have been a babysitter. I love working with kids. And music was so important to me when I was a kid. And it was so fun. And that feeling I felt about like listening to music in a cool way kind of felt like a little superpower that I could have. And I think that sometimes people think it's inaccessible, like, oh, you have to be a musician, or you have to be really smart, or not really smart. I don't know why I said that because I'm a dumbass. You have to have all of this knowledge, but you really don't. It can be, if it's explained to you in a fun way, an accessible way, then you can sort of listen to music and feel like you kind of have these like magic ears. And so that I want everyone to experience that. And also the show is not just for kids. It's actually for adults too, the way that the Muppets kind of was. Because I also want adults to feel like, a lot of people feel like I missed the boat. Oh, I wish my parents had made me take an instrument. Now I'm, in my 20s, late 20s, and I can't appreciate music. I don't know. I can't learn about music. And I don't think that's right. I think you can, hopefully I want to make something that makes an adult not feel like they're at school or having to do homework, but can watch and be entertained. But then also, when the show is over, drive somewhere in the car and on the radio and listen to music in a fun way, thanks to the show that would hope to make one day.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
You're basically going to be Paul at the piano and Get Back, showing everyone.
I hope, and then maybe that's why I loved that part so much then. Yeah, is that like, because the kid, I think the kid was just like, okay, sir. Like, he's probably so stunned that Paul is even talking to him. I think actually at the end of Paul's little talk to him, the kid goes, I got to get me a piano.
Right.
So I want, but I don't know, maybe he did buy a piano. Who knows? So maybe a kid like that could watch whatever thing I do.
Yeah. I think that kid grew up to actually write the song WAP by Cardi B. So.
Well, I have danced and enjoyed that song many times. So
Right.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, Grace, I have one final question for you.
Sure.
So here we are, obsessed over the Beatles 60 years after they actually existed.
Mm-hmm.
So where will the Beatles be in 5, 10, 50, 100 years from now?
Well, I think there's something we talked about the legacy thing. I think if you're going to have a legacy or have the qualities of something that is a legacy, they will be around, we will be talking about them in 10 years, 50 years, but like how much? It depends. We're talking about them a lot now, but that's because a really rich filmmaker got this like amazing footage that we hadn't seen before. So we kind of got like a little revival of Beatlemania, albeit not as big, obviously. But I mean, if you see, TikTok now, there are songs that came out in the 90s that were like kind of okay, but they're getting like a huge renaissance now because they're featured on a TikTok. I think it's easier for songs to come back. I think there are some Beatles songs like like Anna Go to Him that like a Gen Z kid will be like, what, like turn this off immediately. What is this? but there's some stuff on Revolver. She Said, which is, I mean, look at Tame Impala. They're huge. I love Tame Impala. They sound like the Beatles. They just straight up, like their early stuff, they just sound like the Beatles. He sounds exactly like John, and their music is psychedelic in the way that the Beatles psychedelic stuff was. They sound very similar. So I think there always will be like a few stray Beatles songs that, because they're so good, will stand the test of, that will just be so impactful no matter what, and will stay important and will be listened to. I mean, okay, well, listen to this. So West Side Story was written in 1959, and we just got a revival, a film adaptation of it. Its second film adaptation that came out this week. And it didn't do well in the box office, but people are listening to it. People are going to see it. People are going to hear the songs again, and I think that's because Stephen Sondheim and Leonard Bernstein and all that stuff. So I think if the Beatles had been like just straight up folk musicians, like like Dylan, we wouldn't they wouldn't have like the kind of like pop, like everyone, like kids and your neighbor next door and like a 3-year-old child, could get excited about it. A 3-year-old child and a child who's 3 in the year 2050 will jump up and down probably hearing like a Beatles song. And I think that's because they just span so many genres. There's something for everyone. God, my answer's all over the place, but like it's just really crazy to think about it, because I was getting them tattooed on myself when I was in the year 2010. And it was because I had the internet, and the internet's still here. They're funny. It's not, they're still funny. Their sense of humor is like, and that's the other thing, that Beatles Get Back documentary was so great, because everyone was like kind of discovering that these guys are fucking hilarious. They're really funny, but like in a humor way in a way that like it's the kind of humor that is like still funny today, not like old timey humor. Like they were just like guys fucking around and like being really funny. And if we have that footage and we watch that, I think they'll always be relatable to us. Like, these are guys just like having fun and making jokes that my friends made. And oh shit, they wrote this awesome song that came out of it. That is like a combination that is really special. And I just can't see like a generation getting bored of that unless another Beatles comes along.
Do you think that'll happen?
No,
Yeah.
I don't.
Right.
I mean, it just won't, just due to like the way that we consume music and the way that, I mean, we're not all going to waiting outside a record store to open up so we can hear music. I could go, we can listen to it in the car. We can listen to it in the shower. There was like a scarcity that back then in the early 60s that made them more special to hear, because it wasn't easy to hear them. And and obviously we'll never have that ever again in our lives. If anything, we'll be like, we want to hear less music.
Do you mean like an overconsumption of music?
I mean, yeah, I don't think there's actually such a thing as too much music. I'm just saying that there was just like, something about just not being able to access it right away, and the culture of, people getting pissed off about it, and the idea that, no one had ever sung about like wanting to hold, like, I want to hold your hand before. I can't see another thing like making a bunch of people crazy all at once. And this is someone who is like sat third and second row at Beyonce concerts and could like go on a Beyonce podcast if I wanted to right now, who is like hugely influential, but like not in the way that the Beatles were. She just wasn't. And that isn't to say she's less talented. I think it's just like the time and the place,
Right. So in 100 years, you see the Beatles still popular or fading away?
Still popular. Because 1921 was 100 years ago. Hold on.
In the 20s, you had George Gershwin, Rhapsody in Blue.
Okay. Yeah, Rhapsody in Blue. Okay, Woody Allen used that in the beginning of his movie Manhattan. They used it in Fantasia. Rhapsody in Blue is used in so much shit.
Yeah.
I mean, old standards are sung, people, if a song is good enough, you can cover it forever. Adele had, what's the Dylan song she had on her
Make You Feel
Make You
My
Feel
Love.
Exactly. I mean, that song is not 100 years old, but I didn't know it was a Dylan song. It felt so fresh to me, and that's the power of an incredible songwriter like Bob Dylan. So I think in 100 years, it's absolutely possible. Will people still be talking about them? Yes. Will it be as much as you and I are right now? Or will there be as many people? I don't think so.
And do you pass the Beatles music on to people you meet, or like the kids you're gonna teach music to one day?
Absolutely. I mean, oh my God, absolutely. I mean, look how influential it was for me. Of course I am. I mean, honestly, sometimes I'm like, do I want to? I mean, I love kids so much, but sometimes I'm like, do I want to have kids? Obviously, I want to like. A huge part is I want to watch them grow and nurture them, but I'm also like, I want to introduce small children to cool music and see what it does to them as a person, to see like where it could catapult them. So I absolutely want to do that. But sometimes I do get the urge to be like, sit down in this room with me and let me play you these 4 songs while I pause it every 3 seconds to explain how cool this is, which sometimes can take away the magic. And it's like sort of that thing where it kind of makes people want to listen to it less. But I have had some experiences where I'm like, hey, I'm going to give you 4 Beatles songs and like 3 quick, cool things about them. Or not 3 about each, but like 1 little thing about them. And then like go forth and like find peace. And if you don't like it, then that's fine. At least I can say I've done it. But yeah, anytime I can where I feel like I'm not being annoying, I will try to pass the Beatles off, whether if it's on to friends, future children, children I may meet in the future.
Grace, is there anything that you want to promote while you're on the podcast, or anything that you want them to check out?
You can listen to my podcast, The Ringer Music Show. Comes out every Tuesday. You can follow me on Twitter at Grace Spelman, and also Instagram. And also, if you want to see my batshit Spotify playlists, you can. I think you could just search my name, and I'm there. But I don't think there's a space. Whatever. You figure it out. You just Google Grace Spelman Spotify. I'm sure it will be there. And yeah. And then, like I said, if you are a television producer with a shit ton of money, please contact me. No, I'm just kidding. Well, no, I'm actually not. But yeah, so hopefully you can, if you are listening, you can find me there, and then hopefully one day you could find me doing something cool with music and kids, in a few years. That I think that's where I'll be.
Cool. That sounds good. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Grace.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so glad anytime I can. I really haven't been able to talk about the Beatles like this, honestly, probably in about a decade. So this has been very special for me, and I'm really happy to be here.